Now, in this technical demonstration, we're going to focus on local Unix accounts. Now, we have two pre-created objects, our help desk and payroll computers that we completed in the previous technical demonstration. But what we don't have are those user accounts that reside locally. Part of our identity consolidation process is to consolidate a local Unix account with that of an Active Directory account. But we need to add those accounts. So in order to do that, we can download the etc password and etc group file. And we're going to add those to the pre-created objects that we completed earlier. So let's start with the help desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the help desk. And as you can see here, I do have an option for Unix data and role assignments. Role assignments we'll talk about a little bit later. But Unix data is what we're going to focus on. You'll see we have users, local users, groups, and local groups. What we need to do first is make sure that we have that information. So the etc password file and the etc group file, we can export using third-party tools or the deployment manager. We can also bring them in through another mechanism, which you'll see here in a moment. So I'm ready to import. I've already downloaded the etc password file and the group file. So I'm going to start by going to Unix data, and I'm going to right-click and say import from Unix. Now, as you can see here, I can import from an NIS domain, or I can use the configuration files. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this option, click Browse, and I'm going to go ahead and go over to the storage location where I downloaded or exported those files, and that's under my Centrify directory. As you can see here, I went ahead and grouped them based on the system. So I'm going to go over to Help Desk, and I'm going to select the password file. Now I can do the same thing with the group file. So let's go ahead and do that now. I don't have to add them both for this task. I can do them individually. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now, as you can see here, I'm including option types both for users and for groups. I can include system accounts, and I can automatically shorten those Unix accounts to 8 characters. But we're not going to make any other changes here. We'll go ahead and click Next. And we do want to store them in Active Directory. If we're using a different directory service, we can store them in an XML file. We'll go ahead and click Next once again. We're ready to complete the import process. We can check for data conflicts during the import process. It may become necessary if we've imported them once before and we try to import them again. This will help to avoid not just the conflict, but the duplication. So we'll go ahead and leave this intact. We haven't imported any users for this system, so we'll go ahead and leave this alone and click Finish. Now what you'll notice is that nothing has really changed here. We're going to go over to our users and expand on users, and now I have an option for pending import. Under pending import, here are the users. Now, we don't need all of these users. We only need those that correspond to a specific identity. But in order to do that, we need to identify an Active Directory user candidate. So again, this is part of our consolidation process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the users. This is very simple. I can simply right-click now and say Check Status. Now what this will do is it will compare these user identities against Active Directory. So I'm going to select the Active Directory forest that I want to look at. I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice that my Active Directory user candidate column has now become populated. So I'm going to sort this so that I can group them together. And now, as you can see, all of the user accounts for specific user identities has a user candidate associated to it. These other accounts, which can be associated to systems or applications, I don't need to bring into Active Directory. Those can remain local. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these particular accounts because I don't need them. This is not going to affect the Unix system in any way. This is just to clean up the access manager and the information that we're storing in it. So we'll go ahead and delete those options, leaving us just with user identities. Alex corresponds to an Active Directory account for Alex Foster. Bob, again, correlates to Bob Hughes, and so on. Well, now I have an identity consolidation, but I need to accept these changes and move them out of a pending status into my Unix data for users. So I'm going to simply select them all, right-click, and say accept. You'll notice they've disappeared from my pending status, and if I go over to users, give this a quick refresh, now I have my users from Active Directory associated to a Unix profile name with a UID, primary group, and home directory. So now, once I have established all of my roles and rights that we'll learn about later, I now have an Active Directory account that can be used to log into a Unix system without having a separate identity. Let's take a look at groups. Now with groups, it's going to be a little bit different. We do have a pending import. And again, I have a number of groups that are already in place. The one I really want to focus on, however, is my users group. So I'm going to go ahead and sort this, and I'm going to go locate my users group. The only difference here is that I don't want to check a status on this because I don't have a group candidate that applies to help desk Unix users. There is an Active Directory group called users, and I certainly don't want to make any changes associated to that group. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right-click on users, and I'm going to create a new Active Directory group instead of checking status. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Identify my container. Now again, my container is actually going to be under the Centrify OU under Unix groups. We'll go ahead and click OK. We'll click Next, and now I can provide it the appropriate name. Now again, make sure that you're following organizational consistency and organizational practices when you're naming your groups. Make sure your group names are descriptive enough so that they are understandable by others. So we're going to go ahead and stay consistent. We'll go ahead and call this one CFY for Centrify users. Call this one Help Desk users. So these are going to be Centrify users for Help Desk. We'll go ahead and I'm just going to copy this and we'll populate it for the group name for pre-Windows 2000. And we're going to make this a global group. We'll go ahead and click Next, Next, and now we can enable selected accounts in the zone and click Finish. So now I have this group. I'm going to go ahead and accept it. And I'm going to come up to groups, give this a quick refresh, and now I have my groups. Now what you'll notice here is that I don't have any members. What I need to do is I need to go ahead and bring those members in. So in order to do that, I can simply go back over to my users, select them all, right click and add to group, and add them to my Help Desk users group. And that's how we handle the pending import of users and groups.